Good morning, friends. I want to talk to you today about something we all face at some point in our lives: struggle. That season where the doors don't open, the prayers seem unanswered, and nothing seems to make sense. But I want to tell you today that struggle isn't there to stop you. It's there to reveal you. It's there to test something powerful inside of you, your attitude. Now, I know it's easy to be grateful when everything is going our way, when the job comes through, when the diagnosis is clear, when the relationships are strong. Of course, we're thankful. But the real test of gratitude, the real test of attitude, comes in the middle of the storm. When you're still waiting, still hurting, still believing. Gratitude is not just for the good times. It's easy to be thankful when everything is falling into place, when life is comfortable, and when prayers are being answered just the way we hope. In those seasons, our hearts naturally overflow with appreciation, and expressing gratitude doesn't take much effort. But the real measure of a grateful heart is not found on the mountaintop. It's tested in the valley. It's tested in the moments when things are not going right, when we're struggling, when we feel forgotten, or when we're walking through something that doesn't make sense. That's when gratitude becomes powerful. That's when it stops being an emotional reaction and becomes a conscious decision, an act of faith. When life hurts, our first instinct is often to complain, to question, or to become bitter. We start to focus on what we've lost, what's not happening, or what we wish was different. But this mindset only magnifies the pain. It narrows our vision until all we can see is what's wrong. Gratitude, on the other hand, lifts our eyes. It reminds us that even in the middle of the storm, there's still something to be thankful for. Maybe it's the strength to keep going. Maybe it's the people who are standing with us. Maybe it's simply the fact that we woke up this morning and we're still breathing. These small acknowledgments of goodness become anchors for the soul when everything else feels uncertain. There's something sacred about giving thanks when you don't feel like it. That kind of gratitude is not surface level, it's rooted deep in trust. It says, I may not understand this season, but I trust that there's a purpose in it. It says, even though things aren't perfect, I know God hasn't left me. And when we choose to think this way, our entire outlook begins to shift. We stop seeing ourselves as victims and start seeing ourselves as overcomers. We stop counting problems and start counting blessings, even if they seem small or incomplete. That choice to be grateful anyway is a declaration of faith. It says, my hope is bigger than this hardship. My peace isn't based on my circumstance. It's based on something deep. Sometimes we think we need to wait until things improve before we can be thankful. But the truth is, being grateful in the struggle is often what leads to the breakthrough. Gratitude opens the door for joy, even in pain. It keeps our hearts soft instead of hard. It helps us to hear from God clearly, because we're not clouded by frustration or negativity. And it prepares us to receive more because we've shown that we can handle less with the right attitude. It's not that gratitude magically fixes everything. It's that it changes us in the middle of everything. It changes how we think, how we speak, how we relate to others, and how we relate to God. It builds emotional resilience. It fuels perseverance. And most importantly, it honors the truth that life is still a gift, even when it's hard. One of the most beautiful things about gratitude is that it invites perspective. You can be going through a tough time and still recognize that someone else would love to have what you currently have. You may not be where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be either. That perspective doesn't make your pain less real. It just helps you carry it with more grace. When you begin to practice gratitude daily, even in hardship, it reconditions your mind. You stop automatically looking for what's wrong, and you start noticing what's right. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to feel grateful and begin creating grateful moments right where you are. Gratitude in hard times doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means acknowledging the pain while still choosing to see the light. It means holding on to what's still good, even if it feels like just a flicker. That's powerful. That's spiritual maturity. That's real strength. Because anyone can be grateful when the sun is shining. But when you can still say thank you in the rain, you show that your foundation isn't built on feelings, it's built on faith. That kind of gratitude can't be shaken. And in time, that kind of gratitude becomes the very thing that carries you through. Your attitude is a choice, not a reaction. This is a truth that many people struggle to accept, especially when life throws unexpected hardships their way. It's easy to feel like your attitude is something that just happens in response to your environment. Someone mistreats you and you react with anger. Something falls apart in your life and you react with discouragement. Things don't go your way and you react with frustration or fear. But if you live like that, constantly reacting to everything around you, you give your circumstances control over your peace, your mindset, and ultimately your destiny. Real maturity, real spiritual strength is when you decide that your attitude is not going to be dictated by what happens around you, but by the values, truth, and faith you hold inside you. Making your attitude a choice means taking ownership of your inner world. It means acknowledging that you may not be able to change what happened, but you can change how you respond. Life will always bring situations that test your patience, your character, and your peace. People may disappoint you, plans may fall through, prayers may go unanswered for longer than you hoped. But in all those moments, you still have the power to choose how you will respond. That power is one of the greatest gifts we've been given. It separates people who live reactively from those who live intentionally. The difference between being emotionally tossed around by life and being grounded in purpose is often as simple as deciding, no matter what happens today, I'm going to keep my attitude right. When you choose your attitude rather than react emotionally, you create space for peace in the chaos. You begin to realize that your mood doesn't have to rise and fall with every situation. You become steady, grounded, and focused. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain or disappointment. You're human and emotions are real. But choosing your attitude means you don't let those emotions drive the car. They can ride along, but they don't get to steer. And when you're anchored in truth and in gratitude, you're not as easily thrown off course. You start to carry joy even in difficulty, because joy is not a reaction, it's a position of the heart. There is tremendous power in waking up each morning and deciding what kind of attitude you're going to carry that day. You may not know what the day will bring, but you can say, today I choose to be kind. Today I choose to be calm. Today I choose to stay hopeful, no matter what I face. That simple choice can change everything. It changes how you treat people. It changes how you see opportunity. It changes how you deal with challenges. And over time, those choices build a life that reflects strength and wisdom rather than chaos and reactivity. Some people wait for their situation to improve before they allow their attitude to change. They think, once I get out of this struggle, then I'll feel better. Once I get the job, the healing, the answer I've been praying for, then I'll be more positive. But that's backward. Often it's the change in attitude that creates the space for breakthrough. When you shift your attitude, you change your energy, your language, your decisions. You start speaking words of faith instead of fear, and that alone can open doors. Choosing a good attitude in a bad situation is not weakness, it's strength. It shows maturity, discipline, and faith that things can get better even if they haven't yet. Choosing your attitude also affects the people around you. Attitudes are contagious. When you walk into a room with peace, joy, and gratitude, you influence others without saying a word. You bring calm into chaos. You bring perspective into stress. On the other hand, if you carry bitterness, negativity, or constant frustration, you spread that too. Your attitude doesn't just affect your day, it affects your relationships, your workplace, your family, and even your future. That's why it's so important to be intentional about it. Every morning, every situation, every conflict, every decision gives you another opportunity to say, how will I choose to respond? There's incredible freedom in knowing that no matter what happens around you, you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are empowered by your mindset. You can choose peace over panic, faith over fear, kindness over offense. And when you live from that place, you are no longer just reacting to life, you are shaping it. That is the power of choosing your attitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's working. In difficult times, it's natural for the mind to lock onto what we don't have, what's going wrong, or what seems unfair. Human nature often gravitates toward lack, toward the things that are broken or incomplete. This mindset creates a cycle of frustration, disappointment, and anxiety. We start to feel like we're always behind, like we're not measuring up, or like life is somehow cheating us out of what we deserve. But gratitude breaks that cycle. It doesn't erase the struggle, but it reframes the way we experience it. Instead of focusing on the empty spaces in our lives, it directs our attention to what is still standing, still breathing, still growing. When you start to practice gratitude consistently, you begin to see things differently. You might still be waiting on a job, but you can be thankful that you have the strength to keep applying. You may not have the relationship you hoped for, but you can be grateful for the people who do love and support you. Your health may not be perfect, but maybe there's progress, or even just another day of life. That alone is something to acknowledge. This shift in focus doesn't deny the reality of what's hard. It simply brings balance to your perspective. It reminds you that there is always some kind of light, even if it feels small. What we focus on tends to grow. If all we think about is what's missing, those empty places begin to feel larger and more overwhelming. But if we direct our attention to what's still working, what we still have, and what is still possible, our mindset becomes lighter and more hopeful. Gratitude turns our attention to the good that is already present and invites us to build from there. It helps us to stop measuring our lives only by what we lack and to start recognizing the blessings that already surround us. These blessings might not be everything we want, but they're often more than we realize when we take the time to notice them. There's something powerful about being thankful in the middle of an unfinished story. Most people wait until the happy ending to express appreciation. They think, once everything is resolved, I'll celebrate. But what if you could celebrate progress instead of perfection? What if you could be grateful for the steps along the way, even when the full picture hasn't come together yet? This kind of gratitude keeps you grounded and emotionally steady. It helps you to enjoy life, even while you're working toward more. It allows you to breathe, to smile, to find peace right now, not just someday in the future. Focusing on what's working also increases your resilience. When hard times come, and they always do, you're less likely to collapse under the weight of discouragement because you've trained your mind to look for strength, not just struggle. You become the kind of person who can say, this is hard, but I've come through hard things before. This hurts, but I'm still here. I've got something to work with. Gratitude doesn't pretend that life is perfect. It simply helps you carry the imperfections with more grace, because you're not constantly being overwhelmed by what's broken. This shift in focus is also a powerful form of faith. Choosing to see what's working, even in a season of waiting or loss, says I believe that God is still active in my life. I trust that something good is still unfolding, even if I can't see the whole picture yet. That trust is what keeps you moving forward. That mindset is what allows you to keep showing up, to keep believing, and to keep building. When you start your day focusing on what's right, no matter how small, you invite more strength and clarity into every part of your life. Over time, this shift in focus becomes a habit. It becomes second nature to look for what's right instead of always pointing out what's wrong. This doesn't mean you ignore problems or pretend everything is okay when it's not. It means you balance your perspective so that the struggles don't overshadow the blessing. It means you give yourself room to acknowledge the goodness that still exists, and from that place of gratitude, you find the courage to face what's hard. Gratitude is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing to focus on a better part of it. And that focus changes everything. Struggle is a classroom, not a sentence. Too often, people view their hardships as permanent labels, as if what they're going through now will define them forever. They feel trapped by their circumstances, weighed down by the belief that their pain is a punishment or a dead end. But struggle is not meant to be the final word in your story. It's not a life sentence that you're doomed to carry. Instead, it's a classroom where lessons are learned, character is developed, and strength is forged. When you begin to see your struggle as a teacher rather than a prison, your entire perspective changes. Life's most meaningful growth rarely happens in easy seasons. Comfort doesn't usually stretch us. When things are easy, we settle. We don't question our direction. We don't evaluate our habits or our mindsets. But when the ground shakes beneath us, when doors close and the path forward becomes unclear, that's when we start asking deeper questions. That's when we're forced to look within and examine what's really holding us back or what we truly value. The discomfort of struggle often opens the door to greater self-awareness, deeper faith, and a more refined sense of purpose. Every struggle brings with it a chance to learn something valuable. It might teach you patience when things are slow to change. It might teach you empathy when you're walking through pain you've never felt before. It might teach you discipline when you realize you can't fix things overnight. The lessons that come from struggle are often ones we couldn't learn any other way. They are forged in fire. And while no one enjoys the heat of difficulty, what it produces in us can be priceless if we're willing to lean in and pay attention. When you start viewing your struggle as a classroom, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift in mindset doesn't make the pain go away, but it gives the pain a purpose. It gives you a reason to stay grounded, even when everything feels unstable. You begin to realize that this season, however uncomfortable it is, has something to offer you. It's preparing you for what's next. It's stretching your capacity. It's equipping you with wisdom, patience, and strength you'll need down the road. There's something empowering about recognizing that you can grow in the very place where you feel weak. Struggle invites you to discover what's inside you that comfort could never reveal. It reveals the grit, the faith, the perseverance that might have remained hidden if life had stayed smooth. You learn to trust God, not just when He answers your prayers quickly, but when He's silent and you're still holding on. You learn to rely on strength you didn't know you had. And with each small victory, you realize that you're not as fragile as you once believed. Seeing your struggle as a classroom also helps you avoid unnecessary bitterness. When you think something is unfair or meaningless, it's easy to grow resentful. You start to feel like a victim, and that resentment can harden your heart. But when you believe your pain has a purpose, when you see it as a temporary but meaningful season of growth, you're less likely to give in to bitterness. You're more willing to forgive. You're more willing to hope. You're more willing to keep going, even when it's hard. Struggles come in many forms: financial, emotional, relational, physical, but the principle remains the same. Every hard thing you face has the potential to teach you something. It's not about romanticizing pain or pretending that struggle is fun. It's about recognizing that there is gold in the fire if you don't give up. It's about trusting that you are not stuck in this place forever, and that what you learn here will serve you well when you reach the next chapter. Many people who are admired for their wisdom or resilience didn't get that way because they avoided hardship. They got that way because they allowed hardship to teach them instead of break them. They walked through the fire and came out refined, not destroyed. That same choice is available to anyone. You can choose to sit in your struggle as if it's a prison, or you can choose to step into it like a classroom and say, I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow. I may not have chosen this, but I will not waste it. That mindset doesn't just get you through the struggle, it transforms you in the process. Gratitude is a weapon against defeat. In seasons of hardship, fear, or discouragement, it's easy to feel like life is pressing you down with a weight too heavy to carry. The voices in your mind may echo doubt, comparison, frustration, and despair. If left unchecked, those voices can convince you that things will never improve, that you are stuck, and that there's nothing left to hope for. But gratitude pushes back against those voices. It doesn't just offer comfort, it offers power. It's not passive or weak. It is a spiritual and emotional weapon, capable of breaking through the fog of negativity and clearing space for hope and strength. When you choose gratitude in the middle of struggle, you're not ignoring your pain or pretending it doesn't exist. You're acknowledging that despite the hardship, there is still something good, something valuable, something worth holding on to. That simple act begins to weaken the grip of defeat. Gratitude works like light in a dark room. The darkness doesn't vanish instantly, but it cannot dominate where light is present. Similarly, defeat cannot consume a heart that keeps giving thanks. Even a small moment of appreciation can shift the atmosphere within you. It lifts your eyes, lifts your spirit, and reminds you that you are not alone. One of the biggest dangers in difficult times is getting trapped in a cycle of complaining. Complaining may feel justified in the moment, but it doesn't heal, it doesn't strengthen. In fact, it drains, it magnifies the problems and keeps your heart tethered to what's wrong. Gratitude does the opposite. It shifts your attention to what's still right, what's still working, and what still holds promise. It gives your heart room to breathe. It speaks life where there has been heaviness. It allows you to reclaim power over your perspective, even if you can't change the situation right away. Gratitude also has a quiet way of restoring joy, even in sorrow. It may begin with something small, a warm meal, a kind word, a moment of peace. But the more you practice it, the more you begin to see that life is not all broken, even when part of it is. That realization becomes a foundation to stand on. It tells your soul there's still more to be thankful for. There's still something good here. And from that place, you begin to build strength again. You begin to hope again. The weight of defeat doesn't feel so final when gratitude starts to speak louder than despair. The truth is, we often find our greatest strength when we least feel like we have. Gratitude draws that strength out. It opens our eyes to the ways we've already survived, to the times we've already made it through, and to the blessings that are often hidden in plain sight. Maybe the situation hasn't changed yet, but you've changed in. Maybe you've grown more resilient, more compassionate, or more aware of what truly matters. Those are victories, even if they don't look dramatic. Gratitude helps you see them and celebrate them. In moments of spiritual battle, when you feel like giving up or when your mind is clouded with anxiety or fear, gratitude becomes more than just a habit, it becomes a lifeline. It reminds you that God is still present, still faithful, and still working behind the scenes. Thanking Him in advance, even before the breakthrough comes, is a powerful expression of trust. It says, I believe there's purpose in this. I believe you're not finished yet. That kind of gratitude disarms discouragement. It reminds you that you are not fighting alone, and that the story is still being written. Gratitude also changes the way you treat others. When you're grateful, you're less likely to lash out, compare, or blame. You begin to operate from a place of fullness rather than even in your pain, you can speak life to someone else. Even in your waiting, you can encourage those around you. That's what makes gratitude so powerful. It doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you show up. And that shift can be the beginning of a new chapter, even if the circumstances haven't fully turned around yet. When you carry gratitude into your battle, you carry strength, clarity, and faith. You stop letting defeat have the final word, and you begin to speak hope into your own soul. Gratitude may not remove every obstacle, but it gives you the courage to keep climbing. It fuels your endurance. It reminds you of who you are and what you still have, even when life feels uncertain. That's why it's not just a feeling, it's a weapon. And when you use it, you rise. Gratitude opens the door to joy, even before circumstances change. Often in life, people believe they must wait until everything lines up perfectly before they can experience joy. They think that joy is something reserved for after the breakthrough, after the healing, after the job is secured, or the relationship is restored. But the truth is, joy isn't something that has to be delayed until your situation improves. It's something that can exist alongside uncertainty, pain, or waiting. Gratitude is the key that unlocks that possibility. It creates room for joy, even in the middle of disappointment or delay, because it shifts your heart from what's lacking to what is still present and good. When you begin to give thanks, not just for the big dramatic wins in life, but for the quiet, often overlooked blessings, something starts to change inside you. You might still be walking through struggle, but suddenly you notice the beauty of a sunset, the laughter of a loved one, or the strength you didn't know you had to get through the day. Those small recognitions are not just nice thoughts, they spark moments of joy that might have otherwise been buried under the weight of worry or regret. You discover that joy doesn't have to wait until life is perfect. It can rise from the very heart of imperfection when gratitude is present. One of the most powerful truths about joy is that it's not dependent on external conditions. If you wait for everything around you to be peaceful before you allow joy in, you may wait forever. Life is rarely problem-free. There is always something unfinished, something broken, or something uncertain. But when you choose gratitude, you're telling your heart that even in the midst of those things, there is still reason to celebrate. That's a radical act of faith. It's a declaration that the present moment, with all its flaws and struggles, is still a place where joy is possible. Gratitude keeps your heart soft. It protects you from becoming bitter or jaded, especially when life doesn't turn out the way you expect. Instead of letting disappointment close you off from joy, gratitude keeps your heart open. You start to recognize that even if one part of your life is difficult, another part may be blossoming. You can mourn one thing and celebrate another at the same time. Life is rarely all good or all bad. Gratitude allows you to hold both the sorrow and the joy without being swallowed by either. It's the lens that helps you see the full picture, not just the pain, but also the grace. The ability to experience joy in the middle of the struggle isn't denial, it's strength. It means you're grounded in something deeper than your circumstances. You're drawing joy from a well that isn't easily shaken. Gratitude digs that well. It reaches into the soil of your everyday life and uncovers blessings that were there all along. And the more you practice it, the more naturally it comes. What once felt like an effort starts to feel like a rhythm, a new way of seeing and living. Joy that is born from gratitude is not fleeting. It's not based on temporary highs or external validation. It comes from a steady awareness of what matters, of what's real, and of what remains good in your life. It's the kind of joy that makes you smile, even when tears are still close by. It's the kind of joy that gives you the strength to keep going, not because everything is easy, but because you've chosen to focus on the beauty that still exists.
When you live with gratitude, you also become more present. You stop racing through life, waiting for the next big moment to make you happy. Instead, you start to find joy in the small things, the way the light comes through the window, a shared meal, a word of encouragement. These things don't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. They are the threads that weave joy into the fabric of everyday life. Gratitude teaches you how to see them, how to appreciate them, and how to let them lift your spirit, even if nothing else has changed. Gratitude doesn't wait for perfection, and neither does joy. They are companions, walking together through every season, and when you cultivate gratitude intentionally, you make space for joy to rise in unexpected places. Not because your life is free from struggle, but because your heart has learned how to rise above. Joy doesn't need everything to be right. It just needs a heart willing to see what's still good. Gratitude trains your eyes to find that good, and in doing so, it opens the door wide for joy to enter.